You're listening to The Heart of You on Paris Underground Radio.
Today we are talking with Josette Lamotte, and she is the director of the School of Human Design France, which is a school that helps people understand human design. And you have been a director of this school for how long now, Josette?
Well, it's 20 years, almost 2000. Yeah, 2005, I think, exactly.
Fantastic. Let's just dive right into what exactly is human design.
Well, human design, Annette, we call it the science of differentiation. It really shows us how we can all be very unique, and each one of us has a very unique design and a specific purpose to fulfill with endless possibilities. And, there are millions of variations of human beings. With human design, we can really look at the configuration of each one, and then there is, of course, tools that we offer, human design offers, which is the strategy and the inner authority to help us align with our uniqueness. It's a wonderful tool. It's not you don't have to believe in anything. It's not about that. Yeah, it's not a religion. It's not you don't have to believe in anything. It's actually quite, for me, it's more like a mechanic that it's very down to earth.
Tell me, what is the history of human design, and how did you get into it specifically?
Human design is a little bit over 30 years old, and was created by Ra Uru. The way I came across human design is because of I saw on a magazine a beautiful image of the mandala, which I don't know if you know what you've seen it, Annette. I'm sure you did, but it's a beautiful wheel with lots of colors, and it was very attractive to me. So I there was a number I called, and that's how I and that was a while back. It was in 1999, maybe something like that. And then I got my first reading, and then I started to study, and I studied with Ra all my classes, and I was the first French speaking analyst, which is why then I was invited and asked to build the school in France. And but I practice, of course. I studied in English, and I speak both languages, like you, Annette, more likely.
Yeah. Although I'm guaranteeing that your French is way better than mine because I've only been in France for a short amount of time. So and your English is much better.
Well, I
So
have an accent, but that's okay.
it's interesting because the very first time I heard about human design was a few years ago. And I was working on an event with some colleagues of mine, and we were talking about possibly working together in another capacity. And when we were discussing it, the one gentleman asked me, he's like, "Well, would you mind if I asked you for your birth date and your birth time and all of that information, because my wife is really big into human design and she would like to sort of run your chart to see if we're compatible to work together." And I was like, "Oh my gosh, that's really cool. I never thought about doing that." And I, of course, at the time didn't even know what human design was. I submitted my information to him, and nothing ever came of it, but I don't think it was because of the chart. I think it was just because it was not sort of the right time to collaborate. It was a really interesting thing for me to experience. And so going into that, when you get a body diagram,
A body graph, yeah, a body graph.
it's a body graph? Okay, body graph. So when you get the body graph, what can it tell you about a person?
Well, for you, Annette, because I have your chart, we call it a chart in front of my eyes right now. Well, you are a reflector, like you're one of the four types. You are actually very rare. The reflectors are the very rare type compared to, for instance, the majority of people are like me. I'm very common type. The generator, we are 70%. And then there are the manifestors, we are about 8% or so. and then the projectors about 20, around 20%, and then reflectors are about 1 and some percent. So your type is very rare and unique, and has a strong connection with the moon because all your centers are open. So you are here to be an evaluator, and you have the knack to really be able to sense the environment, what is good, and also more likely assess and evaluate and advise people. So anyway, I could go on, and it's interesting to see your chart and see, all the details. So I don't know, I got carried away by your chart. I forgot the question, Annette.
Oh, no, that's okay. Well, no, I you basically answered the question because I was asking sort of what types of things you could learn about a person based on the body chart, right?
Yeah, so you learn the type, which the type gives you your strategy. So for you, if we take you as an example, because it's always good to have an example, your strategy for you is to wait for a cycle of the moon. Like for instance, not if you have to go buy a croissant or some, a baguette de pain. No, but
Right.
if you have to spend money or invest in a new car, or you want to move, or get married or get divorced, whatever those big things in life, then the key for you would be to wait at least 20 around 28 days before you make your decision, like from and you start this 28-day period starts at the moment you need to make the decision. Like, oh, I have to make that decision. And while you're waiting, then you can discuss the decision you need to make with somebody that you trust, who you trust. Not so that this person gives you what to do or tells you what to do, but more like she's more like a soundboard for you. And basically, you're going to hear in your own voice when the right decision. So that's really the key for you for big decisions. That's really what is best for you. Is not to go too fast. Now you're looking to be surprised. That's your signature. We all have a signature. The signature of the reflector is the surprise. For the manifester, it's peace. For the projector, it is success, and then for the generator, it is satisfaction. So when you use that strategy, then you meet less resistance, and
Mm,
it's easier to move. You meet less resistance if you use that tool, that is the strategy. Then we also have the inner authority, and the inner authority for you is the moon. Is basically be in tune with your cycle, the cycle of the moon, and wait and also talk to people you trust. So I don't know if you have, maybe you can tell me if you have friends you trust and you discuss things, because it's really a process for you, Annette, and that's yours. It's not the same process for me,
right.
but that is yours, for instance.
Yeah, I definitely have people I run things by when I'm in a process of making decisions. I have, friends or, my sister, members of my family. I also, run it by my guides, my spirit team, my intuition. Like, there's all kinds of layers, right? That
Yeah,
that sort of happen before I make a
yeah,
decision.
absolutely.
I do have a tendency to want to push forward quicker than sort of my guidance and the flow of my life wants me to go. So I want to make the decision faster, but then I always seem to be held back a little bit more than I would like. So that makes sense.
Yeah, and yeah, it's kind of fashionable to go fast, but
Yeah.
many of us, which it's over 50% of the population, we're not meant to go fast.
Yeah.
So slowing down is actually healthy for most of us, because we don't have access to clarity or insight. Just in the present, it needs to mature. So
Right.
that's definitely, and for you, if when I look at your chart, it's also everything is a question of where you are. The place it's important for you to love the place you are, where you live, where you work, your environment, your street, your quartier, your city,
Mhm.
that you like where you live. If you like your house, then because you're so sensitive to frequency that you take everything in,
Mhm.
right? So because you're very open, the reflector is the most open. So if you're in the wrong place, you're going to meet the wrong people. Yeah. So people sometimes say, "Oh, how can I find love?" People that are like like you and I also have this one of this the same center open. It's called the G center. It's so important for us to be in the right place, and then we meet the right people, and we meet love, and we meet friends, and we meet and we make money because we are in the right place.
So how do you know if you're in the wrong place then?
Well, for you, it's going to be very much a sense. You're going to smell it or taste it in your cognition is taste. So for you, you more likely have a strong. It could be just a sense.
Yeah.
You sense it, Annette,
Yeah.
don't you?
Yeah.
You
I
sense
do.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you sense it. So trust that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I was curious because everybody has their own particular strengths and gifts. So whether it's like you were saying, if it's in your physical senses, or if it's in your intuition, or wherever it happens to be, are those things that you can see within the chart as well?
Yes, yes, yes. Well, absolutely. That's called, authority, and we all have a different. There's different types of authority. Authorities. It can be the solar plexus, which is more emotional. Authority. That's true for me, for instance, but not only me. 50% of the population. It has to do with how we feel, and it's the pleasure. If it feels good, then it's good. If it doesn't feel good, don't do it. The thing with that, authority is that it has no clarity in the moment. So, basically the advice is don't make a decision when you are totally high on the wave. We call it the top of the. It's like surfing. If you're on top of the wave, you see life in everything looks good.
Right.
And I take an example. If I go in a shop, for instance, I'm on top of my wave, then I fall in love with the first pair of shoes I'm looking at. It's not the right time for me to buy the shoes because I'm high on my wave, I'm falling in love like with this shirt and this pair of shoes. Then if I buy, and I've done that, if I buy them right away, then when the next day, I'm like, what did I do? I don't like them anymore, and I have to return them. So we say, if your inner authority is emotional, just sleep on it. Sleep on things like, yeah, you love the shoes, but go home and then come back the next day. Or if you're on internet, don't click right away. Maybe look at them and look at them again, basically at least one night, but the advice is 3 nights. Sleep on it, to wait 3 days, 3 nights minimum before spending too much money or making a major decisions. And we're not talking about, again, if you are in a restaurant and the garçon is coming with asking you what you want to eat, then of course you're
Right.
you're not going to tell him, "Oh, I need to sleep on it." No, it's not going to work. It's not
Right.
going to work. But for things that things you have to spend, like I said, spending money or any interaction involving a commitment, those things, there is no truth in the moment for people that have the solar plexus. Now, it's very different for people where their authority is splenic, because those people are very, 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 very sharp and very fast. And there are many people who have that as their inner authority. My boyfriend has that as his own authority, and he can just go. He's like very quick on his feet. It's interesting to see how we can be so different. Some people need to wait, and some people can go fast. And that is why human design is so precious, especially for instance, in a family, in relationships. You can understand why and how we are different. And it's not about judging the other, it's more about accepting our differences and then allowing everybody to be themselves.
And also, and working with the individual energies of each person, right? And understanding that even though somebody operates differently than we do, it doesn't necessarily make it wrong. It just means that they just operate differently than we do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And to know, I would advise everyone to know their chart, their type, their strategy, and their inner authority. This is really very practical tools to make decisions, moment to moment decisions that are correct for you when you know this. And then life is easier that way. You don't meet so much resistance, or you don't try to please people because you think it's the best way to do things. Basically, your strategy will help you eliminate resistance, which can be frustration, anger, disappointment, bitterness, those things. Doesn't mean they'll never be there, but they can be there less and less.
Are you fascinated with all of the different terroirs or the various different regions of France and the cheese and the wine and all of the gastronomy that comes from each territory? If so, this is the podcast for you. It is the Terroir Podcast with Caroline Connor and Emily Monaco. Head to parisundergroundradio.com. We will be right back with the heart of you after a word from our sponsors. Welcome back to the Heart of You on Paris Underground Radio. So can you tell me a little bit more about the other types? So we went over the type that I am, which is the reflector. Can you just give us like a brief summary on the generator, the projector, and what is the other one? The manifester? Is that what it is?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Let's start with projectors. Projectors are about 20%. The projector has a focused aura, and they are here to be recognized. And their strategy, the strategy of the projector, is to wait for an invitation. And most projectors are very, very surprised when we tell them, you don't run after people. It's not you, it's not your role. Anyway, it doesn't work for you when you try to initiate things or push the river or try to call your friends. And you know how it's sometimes people really are so eager that they're going to do everything they can. And the projector, the more he's going to do that, the less he's going to succeed. And it's kind of a dilemma for the projector because the projector is looking for success, and the way to be successful is to wait. You and remember, you are seen, people see you, you're not invisible. Just wait to be invited. The invitation will come, and the people who invite you are the people who are correct for you. And these other people, friends or people or acquaintances that don't pay attention to you, if you're a projector, guess what? They don't deserve you. Leave them alone. Wait, and the people that come to you and ask you questions or ask you for guidance, because the projector is really good at guiding the other tie, especially the generator and the manifester. Once it has matured, the projector is really, his role is to be a guide. So it can be successful, then it can be recognized, and then it can shine. When he's recognized, the projector can shine. So, yeah, that's the projector. Very efficient and at guiding others.
Yeah, it's sort of like a lighthouse, right? It's, you know, you turn on your bright light and you allow all the ships to come to you and not actually go out to the ships, right?
Exactly, exactly. That's basically it. If you're patient, things will, and you don't have to compare. That's true for each one of us, but for the projector and the reflectors and manifestors, because you're a minority in society, you're conditioned when you're children to act like generators, and the generator is the only one who has tons of energy all the time and is very busy. Generators have so much energy to generate life that they are always doing things, and they have, they can keep working and working. The generator is the type that is here to work, and that's, it's basically. Now, the generator needs to be respected. The way to respect a generator is to ask him or her question that he can answer yes or no to. Like for me, I'm a generator. So if you talk to me and ask me a question, instead of saying, what do you want to eat? I won't know what to say to that. But if you say, oh, would you like to eat I don't know, a pizza? Or would you like to go eat in a Japanese restaurant? Then I can answer that. Or would you like a cup of tea? Or if you say, what do you want to drink? I don't know. You say, well, would you like to drink a cup of tea? And one thing at a time. So that's very efficient for generators. Basically, the generator is a sacral being, and the sacral is a center that's like a sound box that can make two sounds, the sounds of satisfaction, which is kind of now recognized even by advertising because it's the sound that we hear now. I've seen it in advertising. It's the sound that sounds like that a little bit. It's a sound of satisfaction when we eat something that's very good. So that's kind of now accepted, and this is the sound of a generator when he says yes. Now, no is different from one generator to another can be different, but basically what we are trying to do when we communicate with the generators to tap in those sound. Either it's a yes or a no, and then you can bank on it because the generator, the sacral cannot lie. The sacral center cannot lie. So a generator that says, that's it, it's true. Or if there is hesitation, maybe it means no for now. Anyway, then we enter into the complexity of it all. But basically, and that's the only way to respect the generator is to always ask a question, even to children, instead to a generator child, to ask a question like, would you like to clean, please? Would you please clean your room? Would you please do your homework? Instead of saying, do your homework, would you do your homework? And then you can say, oh, no, not now. I will do it later. Yes, I'll do it, but later. And then again, we can ask, have you done your homework? Not yet, not yet. I'll do it. Don't worry. And then again, and we can change the tone of us. Have you done your homework? But it's
Yeah.
still a question, which is respect. The sacral needs respect. The generators have been slave for centuries, and it's time to respect them by asking them questions that they can answer by yes or no. So then we have the manifester. The manifester is here to have impact, and the manifester is about 8%, and it's the only type that can initiate. The key, the strategy for the manifester is to inform before they act. So if they leave the house, they should more likely say, don't worry, don't wait for me. I'm going to buy a bottle of wine or a bottle of water. I'll be back. Don't wait for me. I may do some other errands. Don't wait for me for dinner. And then when the manifestor comes back home, then everything is okay. But if he forgets to say, I'm going and don't wait for me, everybody's worried and they send textos and they try to call him, and then he gets all pissed off basically because he doesn't like to be bothered. The signature of the manifestor is peace, so he wants to be left alone. The way to be left alone is to inform before acting. So, of course, this is difficult to do this very short version of it, Annette, but it gives you a little bit of an idea.
Of an overview, yeah.
And then in human design, then we study the 9 centers. There are 9 centers, and then that's basically the flow of energy that goes through. They are energy hubs, carries the life force, and then they are very specific centers. We have 2 pressure centers, the head and the root, 3 awareness centers, the splenic, which is about survival, the ajna, which is the privilege to be a witness, to see, to be an observer, and then the solar plexus, which is the younger awareness center, which has to do with emotional intelligence, which is under tons of mutation right now, and it's also a window to spirituality. I always say is I'm sure you, because you are spiritual, you heard that is the glass half empty or half
Yeah.
full. Yeah. So that's very much what's going on with the solar plexus. We have the heart center, which is the motor of willpower. And the sacral center, I talked about it with the generator. It's a life force. The root center is the stress, the adrenaline, And then we have the throat center, which is communication. The G center is to do with identity. It's kind of the GPS of our body. And then we have the head center and the ajna center. And the mind in human design is really looked at as a wonderful tool to memorize, to study, to analyze, to make lists, to conceptualize, to discern, to find inspiration, but never, never, never to make personal decision. The decision making process is done with inner authority, and it's never the mind. Basically, we are not the mind. The mind is a wonderful tool to be used, and it's precious, but it's not a decision making tool. And it has the maturity of about a 5-year old. So, learning how to be watchful of the mind, going back and forth,
Right.
then it's part we explore that in the holistic analysis. It's one of my favorite. In human design, when you discover human design, the first thing is to find out your chart, and you can go to any website. That there are jovianarchive.com. It's in English. In French, you designhumanfrance.com, and it's free. You can get your chart for free. You can get a report that's not too expensive. Then it's a written report, and then you can go to an analyst and get your reading or your analysis. And that the foundation analysis is the first, but then we have holistic analysis where we go deeper, and then we can really look at different aspect of our health, digestive system, because the digestive system is differentiated. It's not everybody the same. And like when I look at yours, for instance, your stomach, your digestive system, Annette, needs to. Are you aware that for you, you digest better if you eat alone in the calm, and if you're in an environment where there is lots of stimulation or too much noise or too many people, your digestion may not be as easy, as good.
Right.
I don't know if you notice that, but for
Yeah.
instance, for you, it's to do with the calm, and everybody's different. So we go into that, and then we go into looking at different aspect of the mind. Uh, each one of us, our mind has different way to look at life. Like for you, you look through the possible. Your mind looks at possibilities. You know
Yeah.
and for me, my mind, like, and possibility always has as a binary. The other side, we call it distraction of possibility, is basically probability, which is your mind may sometimes has a tendency to create limitations. Oh, I can do that. I will not do that. I won't be able to do that. And then it goes back and say, oh yes, but
Right.
I can. Oh, look, if you do that. So it's about watching that, and we can really help with human design. Look at all this, and in a way that is quite enlightening, really, and fascinating to look at all this aspect of the mind. And basically, the goal is not to believe everything that the mind is telling us, to in order to make decisions for ourselves. So yeah.
Are you trying to manifest your dream of moving to Paris? If you are, I would highly recommend listening to the Paris Estate of Mind podcast. It is right here on Paris Underground Radio, and it will give you everything that you need to know about renting apartments in the City of Light. We will be right back with the Heart of You after a word from our sponsors. Welcome back to the Heart of You on Paris Underground Radio. When you're doing a chart, and like you said, people can go online, they can get their own chart. When it comes to the 9 centers, your birthday and your birth time, that is what changes what sort of dictates the different centers. Is that correct?
Yeah, basically in human design, we take in consideration two calculation, the time of birth, and then the time of the incarnation of the design crystal, which is 3 months before birth. So sometimes people say, oh, it's like astrology. Not really, because in astrology you only have one calculation. Here, what the software, of course, it's a software. I'm not doing it by hand. We're not doing it by hand. Of course not. But the software takes the juxtaposition of these two calculations, the design time and the birth time, which are two different times, and then it creates your chart. And then the chart becomes alive. Of course, it has a story to tell, which is what, when you go to classes and we teach, I teach people to become analysts, then we learn how to decode this chart, because the chart reveals, yes, your specific genetic design. Basically it has to do with your genetic, who you really are, how to be yourself, how to navigate. And then it provides you with the tools, which is the strategy and inner authority to make decisions as yourself. I've talked about that, to eliminate resistance. And it also helps for relationship dynamics. It can help you understand why you have affinities with certain people and maybe not with others. So it can be very helpful with friends, family, and it's most important for me. It is so important for children. Most important for children, if we can help children and respect each one, each child to in their uniqueness. Yeah, all those things are create the best environment for us, but for children, so they are empowered to be their unique selves and to develop as individual human beings instead of being conditioned because whatever.
Yeah.
That's what the chart can do. Yeah.
So then how can the chart help somebody overcome blocks or let's say sort of face things that might be considered like their shadow? For example, you were mentioning for me a lot of times if I tend to rush or if I want to rush into something, I could meet some sort of resistance. So having the knowledge of your chart and the knowledge of that moon cycle and understanding the 28 days could make, things in my life flow a little bit more smoothly, correct? Right?
Yes.
So
Yes.
how can it help people with their individual journeys overcome any of those blockages or shadow work?
Yeah, the shadow work in human design, we call it the process of deconditioning. So it's the different words, but it's about the same meaning, I believe. Human design has a very specific language. So when we say white, I mean it's not colored. It can be undefined. Also, that's mean the same thing. A white center has the potential to become a wisdom center if you are aware of the traps or the shadow side of this center. So there are 9 centers, so there are 9 shadows, 9 potential wisdom, and it's about exploring that. And that's why the reflector, who has 9 centers open like you, there is such enormous potential for wisdom once you learn, and you become aware of those. So the one that, there's a hierarchy for the deconditioning. The one that is the most common and quite difficult to decondition is the ego center. The ego center is the heart center. It's about the shadow side is about thinking that, do I think I have something to prove? That would be the shadow side, trying to prove the our worthiness. Or so there are about 70% of people almost that are trying to prove their worthiness, which is a trap. And then the wisdom there is we give a mantra. The mantra is, I love myself the way I am. I have nothing to prove and I do my best. And that's it. And because the trap would be there to the shadow side for these people would be, and I'm part of them, is to, and I don't do that anymore, but I used to, is to make promises to prove my worthiness, and that we are not built to keep promises. So it can put tremendous pressure on the heart, on the stomach, and we find people with, in the workforce that have ulcers and problems with the heart problems, because they have made promises all their lives. For instance, for work, oh, I have to get to that number every month, and it's too, they are not built for that. So the wisdom would be to let go of that job before you get sick, for instance, you know. And then there is, like you were saying about you not being spontaneous is not really something good for you. Not if you need to go to the bathroom, you're not going to wait for
Yeah.
20 minutes.
Right.
We are clear on that. But if you need to invest money, then of course I would say wait, and the shadow side would be not to listen to that and just try to be spontaneous. And you, for you, seeing your chart, you would pay a price, just like me. There is always a price to pay for our mistake, you
Right,
know?
right.
And then the price can be money, but it can be health, it can be friends, it can be, yeah, it can be a big price to pay.
So when you're able to point out these sort of shadow sides for people in their chart, what kind of tools are you able to give to them in order to be able to start working through these?
Well, exactly the process, what I'm doing for you with you now, giving them, it's what we do in an analysis. That's what the analysis and the reading is for. That's what it is for.
Got it. So it's basically just bringing the awareness to that aspect is allowing the person to be able to make the different choices based on what is coming naturally for them based on the human design chart.
Yeah, and we give them a tool. It's quite for each center, like for the heart center, I said, the mantra, you know. So it's kind of practical, right? You have to, of course, you have to use it. For the solar plexus, I think I already told you, spontaneity is really not healthy for you.
Right.
Wait, sleep on it at least one night. So I would say, tell people, oh, I cannot be spontaneous. Let me sleep on it. Thank you for your suggestion, for your question, for your solicitation, for your invitation, but no, thank you. I need to sleep on it. That's the tool right there.
Right, right.
Now, are you going to do it? I don't know. Are you going to? That's, the responsibility is on the person, each one of us, to be responsible, right?
Well, and that's part of the process sometimes, right? Is that if you receive a tool like that and you decide to not use it, and then you get the results that you get, and then you can start sort of creating that idea that, oh, okay, well, so the last 7 times I've done this, I've gotten this result, and if I follow the flow of what my chart says, then I get a better result. So I'm just going to continue doing that.
Exactly. That's it. And like for then we would go through, for instance, the splenic center, which has to do with health. So the tendency when it's open is that we don't know what's good for us. So the tendency could be there. The shadow side would be to be addicted. It's all the addiction. So it can be sugar, too much coffee. Not today, the biggest addiction is too much screen time. Not enough sleep on the cell phone, on the screen, and not enough sleep, right? And then how do we unhook ourselves from that? That's the key. That's the wisdom is, oh, we need to find how to be healthy, have a good lifestyle, sleep enough, exercise enough, eat well, and eliminate toxic people, toxic relationship, toxic places.
And so does each type have a particular propensity for each sort of type of habit like that?
No, it's more by centers for that.
Okay, got it.
It's more by centers. Yeah, the centers are really, and the wisdom, what we found, I need to talk about the wisdom. Like, for instance, in the splenic center, we find the best healers because they, like for you, you have the potential if you, because you have this center wide. I do too. I have the same as you, is if we learn how to be healthy and take care of ourselves and have good lifestyle and we are healthy, and you know that holistic medicine is better for you, uh, and so I don't know if you do, but I travel with my little homeopathic kits and my herbs and my vitamins. I know how to take care of myself. But people like that can sense the suffering in other people. So we find healers can have this. That's the wisdom. Then you can feel what is wrong in the other, and that can become the wisdom for the center. So there is always the capacity to, it's where we explore and to gain wisdom. That's what the white centers are. Yeah. Yeah, for in France, so the official human design school that is licensed to teach, train people to become analysts is designhumainfrance.com. .com en français. And then on the social media it's the same. Everything Design Humain France is on Facebook. There is a page and there is a group, and on Instagram as well. um, Follow us, and then you can find all the information. There is free information on the website. There is a conference that is free every month in French that you can come. And then and if you speak French, that's the site for you. Now if you speak English, you can go to I have a website in English. It's humandesigninstitute.com, and you can find some information there as well. That's it, Annette.
Great. That's amazing. So I wanted to thank you so much for joining us today on the podcast. It's been super, super
You're
enlightening.
very welcome.
And I wanted to let our listeners know that all of that information that Josette was speaking of is in the show notes. Thank you so much for joining us. You can also head to my website, which is infinitesoullove.com, and I will put some updates there as well as on my social media. And thank you all for listening, and thank you for all of your support with Paris Underground Radio. It really means a lot to us. If you would like to listen to other French-centric podcasts, please head to parisundergroundradio.com. If you would like any more information about this show or about me, you can reach me at infinitesoullove.com. And on all social media, Infinite Soul Love 1111.
This episode of The Heart of You was produced by Jennifer Garrity for Paris Underground Radio. For more on this show and shows like it, please visit parisundergroundradio.com.